Hello, everyone, and you're welcome to my YouTube channel. Again, you're welcome back. So, today we're going to be making some clarifications around some confusions regarding a social worker and a social care worker. So, today we're going to be discussing social worker versus social care worker. What's the difference? Okay. I came about this topic why, and I felt that I should talk about it because I've gotten a lot of questions from people, and there are a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings around the role of a social worker and a social care worker. They're two different things, and that's why I'm making this video today to clarify and help people understand the difference between a social worker and a social care worker. Too often people use these terms interchangeably, and it's not just inaccurate, it leads to confusion about roles, qualifications, responsibilities, and even public expectations. So we're going to kick off with definitions of a social worker and a social care worker. All right. Now, a social worker is a qualified professional, okay, educated to a degree level and registered with a regulatory body like Social Work England. All right. Now, we're trained to assess complex needs, manage risk, make assessments, safeguard vulnerable people, intervene where legal or any like statutory action may be required. As a social workers work in child protection, mental health, adult safeguarding, the courts, youth offending, fostering and adoption, hospitals, and of course, the list is endless depending on where the services of a social worker is needed. Social workers are the ones that write care plans, we make assessments, we lead safeguarding processes, all right? Make tough decisions about interventions and about, vulnerable people. Now that's that. Now, the key word or the key thing I want you to take from this definition is that a social worker is educated to a certain degree level and is registered with a regulatory body. All right. Now we're going to go to the definition of a social care worker. A social care worker, on the other hand, may not be professionally qualified, but plays a vital role in the direct care and day-to-day support of vulnerable people. All right. They work in residential homes, care homes, home care, supported living, day centers, hospitals, and they help people with their personal care. They help people with their day-to-day support, meal prep, medication support, daily routines, emotional support, community engagement, as well as, helping, befriending, or even assisting um, vulnerable people in whatever way they can. Now, having spoken about the definitions of these two, I want us to talk about qualifications and registrations. All right. A social worker requires a degree in social work. Yes, you can't be a social worker if you do not have a degree in social work. So you have to go to school, uni, to study and have a degree in social work. However, there are so many ways people get that degree in social work, but that's not the reason for this video. Now, social workers require registration, all right, with a body like Social Work England for those in England. We've got the Triple SC for those in Scotland, and we've got the HCPC for those in Ireland. So, to be a social worker, you must be registered with one of these bodies. Now, social workers are held to a professional code of ethics. So we have professional code of ethics that we must go by. We also complete what we call CBD, and that's continuous professional development, which we have to do every year. Social workers can also face hearings. They can be deregistered if they breach any of the standards or if they breach any of the code of ethics. We can be deregistered. All right. Social care workers, on the other hand, may have MVQs, diploma, or on the job training. Some people become a social care worker, train on the job, and become good at it and grow, you know, with that. In some areas, some social care workers are registered too, like in Scotland. Social care workers are registered in Scotland. Triple SC, you must be registered if you're a social care worker as well. But however, the threshold for accountability is different. So, key points: not every social care worker is on a professional register, all right? But every practicing social worker must be on a professional register. So, we're going to go next to the legal responsibilities and decision making. Social workers have legal responsibilities, yeah? We work with legislations like the Children's Act of 1989, the Care Act of 2014, the Mental Capacity Act, the Mental Health Act. I can go on and on and on. We have legislations that we work with depending on your depending on the group of vulnerable people you work with. So you could be working with children, you could be working with adults, you could be working with mental health, hospitals, courts, and the rest of them. So we have legislations that we use, that underpins our work. Yeah. Social workers are also responsible for safeguarding decisions. Section 47, Section 17, court reports, mental capacity assessments, needs assessments, deciding thresholds for intervention, and all of that. I can go on and on and on. This is just like a few. Yeah, social workers assess, they do risk assessment, do lots and lots of assessment. They make safeguarding decisions about interventions and how to support vulnerable people. Now, social care workers support these decisions, right? But they don't make them. They don't have the legal authority to remove a child from harm or detain someone under a mental health act. However, they support the decisions made by the social worker. Now, let's explain where the confusions come from. Why is there so much confusion? One, the roles overlap. We work together. You can't work as a social worker without the help or support of a social care worker. So sometimes the roles overlap, and that's one of the reasons why there are lots of confusions about the roles and responsibility. Secondly, we both work with vulnerable people. Social workers work with vulnerable people as well as social care workers, right? Yeah, both use the word care. We both use care. Obviously, social care workers, they use care because they provide care, and as well as social workers as well. We use the word care because we provide care. So, because we both use the word care, there's this confusion about, the roles of a social worker and a social care worker. Now, some employers may blur the job title. Maybe, when you're looking for a job and you go on job sites and you see some job roles and some job description, they might not really be for a social care worker. It could be like for the role of a social worker. However, the job description you might see on the site might be confusing, and you might think it's for the role of a social care worker. Like I said initially, the roles overlap, so sometimes it can be confusing. Yeah. So some support workers obviously do very brilliant work, which looks like social work. Trust me, sometimes they do or make some decisions which also look like the decision of a social worker. So sometimes that's why it's kind of confusing. So, yeah, however, responsibility, training, and the legal authority are what sets social workers apart. So, the responsibility, the legal authority, the training is basically the difference between a social worker and a social care worker. Apart from that, we all do the same. Now, let's be clear. Both roles are very, very crucial. Both roles matter a lot. We need social workers and we need social care workers to support our vulnerable people in the society. Think of it like a hospital. A doctor diagnoses, leads the treatment plan, and is legally accountable, right? The nurses or the healthcare assistant provides daily care and support the patient moment to moment. So doctor comes, diagnoses, writes a plan, treatment plan, whatever as the case may be, and is legally accountable. Then we've got the nurses and other assistants within the hospital that provide the daily care and follow the treatment plan which the doctor, might have written. So that's the same thing in social care. A social worker comes, assesses the risk, leads on legal action, probably writes a plan, care plan, intervention, whatever the client might need, while the social care worker builds the daily relationships, provides the hands-on support, and is often the most consistent person in someone's life. So the social worker just comes, assess risk, write care plans, do some assessments, write an intervention that they feel, is suitable for the needs of the vulnerable person and is legally accountable. While the social care worker comes in, provides that daily support, that hands-on support, and is more consistent in the life of the client than the social worker. Social worker might visit, well, it depends, by monthly, fortnightly, as the case may be. But the social care worker is always there daily or weekly, depending on the intervention um, the person needs. Now, final thoughts. If you're a social care worker and you want to become a social worker, great, absolutely great. It's a very, very rewarding profession. I will not stop saying that. Being a social worker, I'm happy and glad at the kind of changes I make for families, for children, because I work with children, the changes I make for children, for parents, how I help and support parents, to safeguard their children is a very, very, very rewarding profession, especially when you come in as a social worker and you've made these changes and you have good outcome for the children. Within you, you feel fulfilled, you feel glad and happy that yes, you've come in, you've done the work, and these children have a better outcome. Trust me, it is very, very rewarding and it is great. Many social care workers have made that transition, through universities or apprenticeships. So some local authorities offer apprenticeship programs where social care workers become social workers on the job. Now, of course, if you're a social worker, definitely you can't even be successful without the support of a social care worker. So value your colleagues. You can't do without them. You can't do it on your own. They are the ones that help, they are the ones that support and make sure the plan you might have in place or you might have put in place is actually working. Yeah. So now I have cleared the air. You now know who writes the court reports. You now know who visits in emergencies. You now know who supports the daily living. And you now know who provides emotional consistency. so you can answer your questions. Of course, you can forward my video to those that you feel like are confused about the roles and trying to make a decision about what they want to do, if they want to be social workers or if they want to be social care workers. Both roles are very, very crucial, very vital, very, very important. I can't emphasize that enough, that social workers most times cannot work without the social care workers, because they're the ones that support, give that daily support and ensure those outcomes you want for the vulnerable person is actually achieved. If you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comment section around what you feel about the roles and the difference in the role. And like I said earlier in my previous videos, if there is any topic you want us to talk about, you feel I need to talk about any topic regarding family safeguarding, parenting, and the likes, then drop it in the comment section. I will look at it and we'll talk about it. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe, like I said. Thank you for watching and thank you for all the work you do. Bye.